Today, I want to talk about enlightenment and how you can have it. Easy enough, right? And it's something that goes by lots of different names. Salvation, atonement, nirvana, awakening, inner peace, rebirth. All of these are kinds of names for finding this idea of enlightenment. And it's sort of this spiritual goal that everybody's talking about. But unfortunately, I think we treat it like it's some sort of lofty, impossible thing that only a very special few can attain. You know, like the Buddha or maybe Christ or some other spiritual giant. And it's something that a normal person like you or me can't have. But the idea of attaining enlightenment already leads us down a false path because it's not an achievement. It's something that you already have inside of you. Now, and you don't have to take my word for it. If you can turn to the Bible, Jesus taught the kingdom of God is within you. And that's something that's personal. That means it's inside you. You don't need to go anywhere to find the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven or enlightenment. It's something that you already have. So let's try to figure out what enlightenment is. Now, it's a little bit impossible because how do you describe the peace that surpasseth all understanding? But what we're going to try to do is use symbolic language, which is the only thing we can do. We can use symbolic language to point at the idea of enlightenment, to point at the experience in hopes that you can find your way there yourself, because it really is an experience. It's not something you can teach or explain. It's something that you have to find and experience in order to have it. Buddha calls enlightenment the end of suffering. Now, wouldn't that be great? But that really only tells us what enlightenment is not. It's not suffering. But I like to use Eckart Tolle's definition of enlightenment. It's the felt realization of oneness. And what's really interesting about this definition is that he also defines love in exactly the same way. Love is the felt realization of oneness. So I think love and enlightenment are intricately linked. Let's also look at the word enlightenment. It implies light. Light reveals things. It gives you truth. And light also has another definition, as in not heavy. So I think enlightenment is a lifting of your burdens, and it points back to Buddha's definition of the end of suffering. Okay, so it's an experience that can't be described very well, and it's within me. So how do I access it? Well, there's one secret. Lose your mind. Your mind, your brain, your thinking is perhaps the greatest obstacle to enlightenment. And I'm talking about that obsessive thinking that sort of prattles away in your head and never stops. And those thoughts that really can't be, turned off. When you go over mistakes and mistakes and mistakes, or you're obsessive about your planning or about judgments about ourselves or what other people think of us. And we tend to associate our identity, ourselves, with what we think. Ever since being in school, we learn that thinking, that figuring, that learning is what's most important in life. We spend hours and hours a day just learning to think. And we think that if we can do that, we can achieve great things, as if achievement is the source of happiness. But I tell you, achievement is not the source of happiness. Achievement is the source of achievement. Existence is the source of happiness. The fact that you exist is the source of all joy, and it's the very definition of God. Joy arises from within. That's what Eckart Tolle said. It is uncaused, and it arises from within. If you look to Moses in the Old Testament, when Moses was speaking with God at the burning bush, asked God their name, and God said, I am. So I'm here to remind you not to forget about your I amness. The experience of I am, the experience of existence is the source of joy. It is the source of enlightenment. And the problem is our thoughts get in the way of that. Your thoughts are very powerful and they never stop. And so we need to look for ways to quiet them so that you can experience your I amness, so that you can experience pure being. And that's where our spiritual practice comes in. Enlightenment isn't an achievement, as we've said. It's a skill. It requires practice to turn off our mind and to simply be. It's more of an unlearning. It's, as Yoda said, you must unlearn what you have learned. Another spiritual master besides Yoda, Jesus said it this way. Except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall in no way enter into the kingdom of heaven, or you will in no way enter into enlightenment. And I'll tell you a secret. Children are already enlightened. They live in the moment. They don't worry about the past. They don't worry about the future. They just play. And they always play. They find wonder in everything they do. And it's not until we adults sort of screw them up that they lose their enlightenment. So how do we get it back? Well, there's one simple practice that we can employ every day. Play. Play as much as you can. When you play, you think without thinking. Or as I try to teach my actors, I'm an acting teacher, I teach them to act before you think. You need to find work that you love and do it on a daily basis, or find a way to make your work feel like play. And you'll start to unlock that childlike sense of wonder, of curiosity, of absolute joy. Another spiritual practice is meditation. And it is meant to bring you into the now, to quiet your mind, and to allow for the experience of being, to get you out of your mind, to help you lose your mind. Breathe. Breathing is really important, in and out. We bring literally parts of the world, the molecules that make up the oxygen and the nitrogen in the air, we bring them into our body. And it is a process that allows us to become one with the world. And if we focus on that, the experience of breathing in and out and uniting with the outside world, that can bring us that experience of pure being. Gratitude. And, we're always like, make those gratitude journals. But you think about it, when you're truly grateful for something, you become grateful for its existence, and it unites you in a certain way with that thing that you're grateful for, or that person that you're grateful for. And it allows you to connect to the existence of yourself and the existence of the thing that you're grateful for. Be present in the moment. Go into your senses and into your body and focus on what's happening in this very moment. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you hear? These are things that bring us into the now and help us turn our minds off so that we don't have to think about the things that we're seeing. We simply experience them in the pureness of being. Now, we do have to think sometimes, right? In order to live, you have to think about, your taxes or your day or your schedule. Those are things that are required. Problem solving requires your mind. But I'd like you to start to treat your mind like a tool, something that you pick up and then put down. Plan when you're going to think, but also plan when you're going to put that tool down. And the more you do, the happier you will be, because you will experience your natural state of enlightenment more often. And that's really the object, right? Is to get a state of enlightenment into our daily life as much as possible, so that we feel it virtually all the time. And you will start to, as you dive into that sense of joy that comes from existing, you'll start to find that even when you think, you can still be appreciative of the existence that you're having, of the thoughts that you're having. You'll be able to observe yourself thinking and enjoy that process. So it is our mind and our thoughts that burden us. They knock us out of our childlike state of enlightenment. And I encourage you to use your spiritual practice to release yourself from those, to dive into that experience of pure existence, that pure experience of pure being. And that's where you will find enlightenment. Learn the skill of enlightenment. Don't achieve it. Learn to do it, because it's something that you already have. It's certain. It just needs to be unlocked. In other words, lose your mind. That's all for today.